In the wake of rising gun violence throughout the country, President Biden visited New York City yesterday to double down on his support for the police, effectively distancing himself from Democrats who've advocated for defunding the police. We spoke to Tennessee Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger to get her take on rising violence throughout the country and what the focus needs to be on. Congresswoman Diana Harshbarger, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Yes, my pleasure.
Now, Congresswoman, right now there's so many issues that the U.S. is facing. We have the Russia-Ukraine, China. Domestically, we have inflation, gun violence. So many different things are plaguing the country and challenging the country right now. What do you think America's key focus should be?
Well, it's restoring law and order, and you know there are a plethora of things you can choose from to talk about. And every day I wake up and there's something new. You know, inflation hurts everyone. Everyone goes to the grocery store, everyone buys gas, and they've seen a steep increase in what they pay. And if I'm not mistaken, it's another $3,600 out of their pocket because inflation, you know, in taxation, it's unbelievable what people are coming to me and saying, help us in any way you can.
Now, Congressman, you mentioned law and order. Yesterday, President Biden was in New York City, raising the concern of rising gun violence throughout the country. What do you think the cause of this is, and what is the solution?
Well, the cause is lawlessness breeds lawlessness, and when you don't equip your police departments or your sheriff departments with what they need to combat that, or you won't let them do their job, you're going to breed lawlessness, and that's what's happened. If you do not, we don't need more laws. We just need to use the laws on the books and make sure that, you know, we convict these criminals that are already out there. If they think they can do it, they will do it. Just like the $900. If it's less than $900 in California, what do? They smash and grab until somebody puts the price up at $901 to where they have to go and take them to court and try to convict them. It's unbelievable. People will do what they think they can get away with, and that's what's happening in our societies. And these are democratically run cities and states where you see it's happening. You don't see that happening back in my area in East Tennessee because they go after those that break the law. And we don't need more rules. We just need to enforce the ones we have on the books.
Now, yesterday, President Biden called for unity based on America's common values. What are America's common values to you?
It should be allow us to live without government intervention. That's it. When I talk to people, for example, homeschoolers, they're like, look, we don't mind to pay the taxes for these public schools, but just don't mess with us. Let us live our lives. Don't interfere. Don't even give us tax credits, for example, because we know there's going to be strings attached. Let them live their lives. You know, I tell people all the time, if the government comes knocking, just don't answer the door because we don't need their help. You know, when they enable people, you know, we're not a productive society, and we've seen that during COVID when they allowed people to stay at home and you pay them to do so. That's, you know, the labor shortage is driving the disruption in the supply chains, for example. It's just, we don't need a lot of government intervention. They're just there to protect us from, you know, foreign adversaries, but let us live our lives because we know best.
Beijing 2022 Olympic Games have just kicked off inside of communist China. What kind of message do you think it sends when the International Olympic Committee rewards this communist regime with another Olympics?
Oh, it's just a slap in the face. You see the genocide that's going on with the Uyghurs. You see some of the stories I've heard out of China. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. There's no respect for human life. There's no respect for their own people. You know, it's all a numbers game and the power. And what they're doing, you know, these athletes do not know how they're going to track them. We know that they will track them. They have to have a specific app on their phone. We don't know. I fear for their safety and security, and our government should be alarmed about that as well. And that's something I'll do a floor speech on later. We don't know. We need to protect those athletes. If this administration, if the Biden administration is going to allow them to participate in those games, you know, they better protect them because anything said that is deterrent from that Chinese government or the CCP, they're going to arrest them, and who knows what will happen. They get rid of their own people when they speak up, which is sad, which is very sad. don't reward them, punish them, is the way I look at it.
Congresswoman Harshbarger, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Senate Judiciary Committee voted on Thursday to advance an antitrust bill that targets big tech. The bipartisan bill addresses Apple and Google in particular. The new legislation is an attempt to curtail the power of the two tech giants. Google and Apple have a monopoly of the App Store market and exert vast control over information and capital on the Internet. The bill is sponsored by Senators Richard Blumenthal, Amy Klobuchar, and Marsha Blackburn. The committee voted 20-2 to advance the legislation, with Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis being the only dissenting votes. Congress is addressing the controversies around 5G service near U.S. airports. Testimony was heard Thursday from the head of the FAA. Since Verizon and AT&T turned on the network last month, dozens of flights have been canceled amid concerns that 5G signals would interfere with key instruments on planes, causing safety concerns. The Federal Aviation Administration has cleared 90% of the nation's airline fleet to land during poor visibility at airports near 5G cell towers. FAA Administrator Stephen Dixon said a permanent fix for the problem is at least 1 year out. Chairman of the House Transportation Committee, Peter DeFazio, blamed the Federal Communications Commission for approving 5G.
Because we cannot have conflicting industries. Having a dropped call is way less serious than having a dropped airplane out of the sky.
The FCC claimed that 40 other countries have launched 5G services without any reports of radio interference to aircraft. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security on Thursday announced a new cybersecurity review board. DHS announced that at President Biden's direction, the Cybersecurity Board will assess past events and drive improvements across private and public sectors. Leading the Cybersecurity Board will be Undersecretary for Policy Robert Silvers. The board will issue recommendations to both government and private sectors on how to better protect U.S. networks and cyber infrastructure. Communist China is suspected of hacking the media conglomerate News Corporation. News Corp, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch, is the parent company of The Wall Street Journal and Fox News. The hackers compromised data and accounts of employees, including journalists, in late January. The vice president of Mandiant, the cybersecurity company hired by News Corp, said that the hackers were likely involved in espionage activities to collect intelligence on behalf of China. A limited number of employee email accounts from News Corp headquarters, Dow Jones, and the New York Post may have been affected. Over the years, the Chinese regime has frequently been accused of hacking into the accounts of journalists. Top members of Congress are calling on 7 leading scientific experts who privately, through emails, supported the theory that the CCP virus originated from a laboratory, but then took a different public stance. House Oversight Committee member James Comer, joined by Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan, are calling on a group of 7 leading scientists to answer questions under oath. The congressmen want to know why these leading scientists changed their minds after meeting with top government health officials, including Dr. Fauci. In a letter the Republican lawmakers wrote, alarmingly, it appears that the decision to suppress the lab leak hypothesis was rooted in political calculations rather than scientific principles.